G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Those of you familiar with my channel will be aware that I recently acquired a brand new, bright, shiny Chinesium hand-powered washing machine with spin cycle attached. And if you already knew that much, then you can probably recall that we had a problem with the legs, specifically that their left hand rear leg, because it wasn't shipped with any left hand rear leg. For reasons of inscrutability, it was shipped with two right hand rear legs instead. And so the task became that of modifying a right hand rear leg into a left hand rear leg. Here we see a right hand rear leg on the right hand side, and the difficulty is that flat surface, or cylindrically planar surface, when you take that around on the other side, its contact line with the drum, below that, its contact line with the tub is not actually what you call rectilinear. So to get that to the right shape, you have to come at it from the other side with a wood rasp and simply cut away entirely not only the raised lip, which in its correct orientation, it turns into a major obstacle for facilitating contact. However, a bit of work with a woodworking rasp and you can get those screws to fit as supplied. At the other end, it's a different story. In mirror image, there's a great big whacking deficit which needs to be filled, and longer screws have to be employed. And although in the earlier video I did speak about the idea of making an aluminium gusset plate, it occurred to me that I could instead 3D print an appropriate gap-filling gusset part which would be structurally sound, if not particularly pretty, but it actually mates all the surfaces on both parts equally to the other, and I'm not actually expecting it to fail anytime soon. I did in fact come up with one other defect in the Chinesium, and that is that the screws supplied to permanently fit the rubber feet onto the base plate, they're not long enough, so I've used contact cement, which is a bit messy and it might have to be renewed, and eventually I'll probably come up with a replacement for the absent screws which were not supplied. But considering that the supplier's response to being notified that they'd accidentally sent a unit with two of those rather than one of each was to send along a complete brand new replacement in time machine, which is now sitting in a box as a replacement spare, waiting for the day when and if this succumbs to wear and tear and oldness of the age. You may have noticed that I said there that I 3D printed this particular gusset reinforcement, gap filler, and if you were wondering how I contrived to 3D print that in place and have it come out looking as rough as guts as it does, the answer is I used Canadium. Bondic, not a glue. I started out with 5 of those little pens, each one containing, I think, 5 grams. And I've used 90 to 95% of 4 of them on the one job. So almost, say 18 grams of ultraviolet setting plastic. And believe me, it actually worked as per all of the instructions. So I don't know for certain, but I think I probably used somewhere in the vicinity of $50 worth of the juice at the prices that I paid. I'm sure you can buy the same stuff in a tin, but then you wouldn't have it applicable in a pen in this manner. And in my estimation, as ugly as it is, it's a neater repair than I would have effected if I'd used aluminium and probably 2-part 5-minute epoxy, maybe with some woven fiberglass cloth. Wouldn't use 2-part automotive bog because it's on a washing machine and the joint's gonna leak and it's gonna get wet. So yeah, having a plastic that'll mate to a plastic, put it on in layers about 1 millimetre thick, put on inch or 2 worth of plastic, and then reverse the pen and hit it with the ultraviolet and set it, and just slowly build yourself up a little wall of it. It doesn't build vertically as well as I would have thought, but it did get the job done. And in my opinion, if I used $50 worth of high-tech Canadium in order to fix $119 worth of high-tech Chinesium, and that's probably a pretty good use of the material, because I can't think of anything else that I would want to repair that's of sufficiently high value that I'd want to use such expensive material. So now that it's fixed, and before I use it for the very first time, I figure I might as well take this opportunity to show you what it all looks like and how it comes apart. Sorry about the gap between the zoom and the frame, but outside I've got to use one hand to shield the screen or I can't see shape. There's the drive gear tooth, which is about 1.5 to 1 in terms of a step up drive between the cog coming out of the gearbox and the drive cog on the washing drum. There's a water outlet at the bottom of the tub to drain. That's a spigot intended as a water fill pipe inlet. The drum's rear bearing is wedge contrived. Everything fits together, tongue in groove, lickety split, as we would have said once upon a time, before such things were said to be politically incorrect. And in order to keep the drive gears from slipping, this stirrup plus the lid eccentric cam locks means that that is the end cap bearing on the step up drive gears, whereas these have parallelogram clasp hinges, quick and easy to use. And in the front 3 inches of the tub casing we have, I'm assuming, a planetary gearbox, again all nylon. So I guess Now all there is to do, stop this video here and start a new one when I've set the thing up with the tub underneath it and a drain, or a tray and a drain, and see what it's like at actually washing a bucket full of clothes. So, there you go. And now you know. High-tech Canadium can in fact Repairo Chinesium. Suppose that's something new under the sun. Ciao.